So Liz Truss, the Prime Minister of UK, resigned after 45 days in office.
To notify him that I am resigning.
And people started posting memes like these.
शुरू होते ही खत्म हो गया यार.
She is being blamed for all the mess that UK's economy currently is in. So on this video, I am going to help you understand in a very easy to understand language what created the UK's economy mess, where did the actual story start from that very few people are talking about. Number 2, what was Liz Truss's role in this entire game? Third and finally, what are the lessons for India, and will the UK's economy improve or will it take the entire world economy down with it? So let us kickstart our conversation and let us first and foremost systematically understand what caused the UK's economy mess. So the story actually starts back in 2008. That was a time when the great financial crisis was caused in the US. A lot of US based banks had to be bailed out by the US government, and it created ripple effects all across the globe. The Indian markets tanked, the US markets tanked, and a bunch of negative things came out of that crisis. But one thing that very few people talk about is the fact that 2008 crisis caused the European Great Recession. So what was the gravity of this European Great Recession? So take a look at some of these snippets. For example, countries like Greece witnessed almost 8 years of recession. You might say that, hey, that's a economically weak country. Okay, so then let's look at something like Ireland, where the recession was again caused for almost 4.5 years. The point that I'm trying to drive home is that the 2008 US crisis, which originated from the US, also derailed a lot of European economies. Along with it, it also hit one of the most prominent economies in Europe, which is the United Kingdom or the UK. Here is a chart that you can see, and it indicates the real GDP growth of UK pre and post 2008. And there is a very clear lag that after 2008, the economy of UK started shrinking and it has not been able to come back to this previous trend even as of now. So the real problem in UK started back in 2008 and it gave rise to new set of problems. In order to understand the context better, let me share two important data points about the UK's economy. So the first data point is the contribution of finance and insurance industries in UK. And you would see that after 2008, there has been a very clear downward trend in the contribution of these industries to UK's economy. In fact, to cut the long story short, all of us understand that London is one of the hubs for the international finance markets, and it got badly hit after 2008 crisis. The second key data point comes from here. So you will see that European Union is one of the major trading partners for UK, both from import and export point of view. And if we consider the total trade that UK undertakes with different parts of the world, then almost 50% of the trade happens with EU nations. Back to the story, as I was telling you, that the Europe's Great Recession, which started after 2008, derailed a lot of these European Union countries, which led to a new crisis called as the Brexit crisis. So after 2008, many European countries started to get hit due to recession. As a result, many of the people in UK or many UK citizens started asking a simple questions. They asked that, hey, why should we be a part of European Union? Other people are taking advantage of us. They are sending their immigrants. They are taking more work from UK. We are a stronger economy. Then why is it that we should benefit the EU? So just in case you need a quick understanding about EU, take a look at this map, and from this you will understand that EU is a coalition of different European countries, and in essence it is basically an economic union. Now you might have a natural question that what is the benefit of having an economic union? So think about it this way, that India has a lot of neighboring countries. Now if we can facilitate a free movement of goods and services all across different borders, several economic studies have pointed out to the fact that when the world trades more, there is increased prosperity in the world, and when the world trades less, there is less prosperity. So to summarize, this economic union benefited both EU countries and the UK. But the problem in the UK was that after 2008, yes, the UK economy was suffering a little bit, but the other EU nations were suffering a lot more. But the people in the UK started believing in the narrative that other European Union countries were deriving more benefits out of UK, and it would be the right move on their part to leave this union. There was a study that was done by Professor Paul Whitley. I will put the links in the description box also, which outlines the fact as to why did UK leave the European Union. But here is a key paragraph that I'm picking from this study, and I will read this with you. So it basically says that the big picture is that people supported membership if they felt that it was delivering what they wanted: a prosperous economy, protection against crime and terrorism, control over immigration, and efficient public services. But unfortunately, people in UK believed that they were not deriving these benefits. There were several studies like this that were done which pointed out to the fact between 1995 and 2015, the number of immigrants tripled in UK from 0.9 million to 3.3 million. So as a result, there was a lot of pent-up frustration in people of UK. There were major political parties who fought the entire election campaign on the Brexit issue, and they made Brexit happen. Back in the day when David Cameron was the Prime Minister of the UK, he issued this statement. So he basically said that leave vote for Brexit would be economic bomb for UK. So he was against Brexit, but several other prominent politicians were in favor of Brexit. So referendum eventually happened in the UK, and UK people decided to leave EU. That was just one half of the story. The other half of the story is that they actually chose to trade less with EU and do away with the economic advantages that came with being a part of EU. Now, an entire 1-hour video can be created on the topic of Brexit itself, but I will point to two important data points as to how UK got impacted due to withdrawing out of EU. So you can see from this fact that almost 81% of UK's GDP comes from the service sector. But what this data point fails to capture is that a large part of this GDP is driven by small businesses. Now, one of the key advantages that small businesses in UK derived was that they could send a variety of different services and goods to different parts of UK without being involved in too much bureaucracy. But unfortunately, this advantage was completely taken away when UK decided to leave European Union. Now, another related problem that happened with UK leaving EU was very simple, that it created an uncertain investment climate. It took almost 3.5-4 years for this resolution of UK leaving EU to get passed, and during that time there were very limited investments that people made in UK's economy. So as a result, what happened? Here is a chart for you. So this impacted severely the UK's labor productivity, which again has not been able to come back to pre-2008 levels. Any country's labor productivity literally depends on its investment climate, because the more investments a country gets, the more it can strengthen its R&D, invest in technology, undertake a lot of productive measures to boost up its workforce productivity. But unfortunately, such investments did not come for over the last 5 to 6 years in UK. Claims made by several organizations point to the fact that the GDP of UK will contract by roughly 4% due to Brexit, and it has become one of the key issues that has derailed the UK's economy. So far, if you have been enjoying listening to this case study, please consider liking this video and subscribing to this channel, because that would indicate to me that you like watching these type of economic, history, finance oriented videos all combined. So I would continue to shoot such videos. So let's move on to part number 2, where we will analyze that whether it is Liz Truss's fault that the UK economy has now derailed. So when Liz Truss assumed office in 2022, UK's economy was facing 4 challenges. Number 1, low growth, which started happening post 2008, and it never ever recovered, because as per several studies, it has been predicted that UK's economy is going to grow at 0%. That is a very bad figure to have. Third key point, that the UK's economy is suffering from something as high inflation. Why? Because of the Russia-Ukraine war, because of general high inflation in the economy post-COVID. So all these factors have further compounded the problem that the UK economy was previously facing. Fourth and finally, it is the high debt situation in UK, that it has taken record amounts of debt in order to handle all these 3 previously stated challenges. So in order to avert this situation, Liz Truss announced something called as mini budget. Many YouTubers have spoken about it, so I'll not get into details of it, but I will help you understand the economics behind it. So take a look at this graphic. It has the following 4 key components in order to accelerate growth. So the first thing is that the corporate taxes shall be cut. Second key component is that income tax is also going to get cut. Third key component is stamp duty. This will basically stimulate the housing market and will increase the demand of houses and real estate. So that was also to be cut, and an ambitious growth target was to be set. This was basically the easing of the interest rate. So let me help you understand the economics and finance behind it, that by making all these 4 moves, what was Liz Truss trying to do? She was simply trying to increase the liquidity in the market. Was she wrong in terms of doing it? One half of the story is that no, she was not wrong, because if you stimulate the liquidity in the market, then it is very likely that the demand will come back, GDP will start rising, etc. etc. This is something that the US government has also done post 2008, just immediately after 2020. Indian government has also done. So this step in isolation was not incorrect. So where exactly was the problem? Well, the problem was that the rest of the world was trying to withdraw liquidity from the market. For example, the US, the Indian government, they were all doing what? They were increasing the interest rate. But Liz Truss, on the other hand, went and said that, you know what, we are going to decrease the interest rate. Now, this shocked the UK's economy in two ways. Number one, the UK economy internally was functioning badly. There was very limited trust by external investors on UK's economy. So when the news came out, they are going to further decrease the interest rate and increase the liquidity in the market, the foreign investors felt that this is going to further fundamentally weaken the UK's economy. And as a result, they started selling the British pound. The second key problem was that the inflation in UK is still very high. It has not started to come down. And when you increase liquidity in a high inflation environment, it can give to even higher rise in inflation. So that further indicated to investors that, you know what, UK's economy is going to blast from this point, and let us start selling the British pound. So you can see from all these articles that there was mass panic by the investors, and the Bank of England, which is the central bank of UK, it had to come in and step in to absorb that excess liquidity, to reassure the investors that nothing is fundamentally off in UK's economy. We are very much capable of handling it. So this spooked all the politicians associated, and it gave them an opportunity to pounce on Liz Truss, and now we are seeing her departure. So this brings us to the final section, that what is the future of UK and lessons for India. So let me very quickly share the story of Silk Route. So Silk Route basically started from here, somewhere in China, and before the Silk Route trade were discovered, China used to be a very localized economy. They just used to trade here, right? That's it. But when the Silk Route was discovered, the trade happened all along this route. New invention, innovation, investment started happening back in China, and it led to a lot of prosperity for this entire belt. What is the critical lesson? That if we go back, analyze history, whenever the world trades more, there are a lot more benefits. Whenever the world trades less, there are a lot less benefits and decrease in wealth and prosperity for all. So no matter how big a particular empire is, be it UK, be it India, be it US, we always need to find new trading partners and never crush trade that is already existing. One of the key mistakes that the UK made, that it crushed its existing business with EU, and as a result, it is now suffering. People who had voted for exiting EU, they are now coming back and saying that, you know what, we made a mistake. We want to go back and change our vote. I don't know whether that is allowed or not, but I highly doubt that that would be entertained. So what does the future look like? Number one, that UK has a thriving technology sector. So the hope is that the technology sector in the UK will pick up and it will be able to bring the economy back on track. So this is number one thing. Number two, some talks are there that UK will go back to the European Union and will have some kind of new alliance there. Number three, now it looks like that the period of political instability in UK is somewhat over, because so many prime ministers have been changed in UK for the last several years. It has been maddening. So with more political stability, there will be some kind of long-term vision that will be there. UK is still one of the biggest economies in the world, and if it gets derailed, even India is going to get negatively impacted with it. It is one of the major trading partners for India. So as Indians, we should still hope that the UK's economy gets back on track, not for them, but for us, because it will bring more prosperity for us. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Do consider subscribing and liking this video, and I'll see you soon.